It's very tough. I think that you hit 0-13, and then you touch 0-14.
They're down at 8. Pressure's coming from Suggs. Kizer breaks away, and it's intercepted. Kizer pumps to the right, rolls to the left, throws to the back of the end zone, intercepted.
You hit 0-15.
On the 28-yard line as we head toward the 2-minute warning. Kizer going for it all, and Fuller in the end zone with the interception.
You need to start allowing it to creep into your mind a little bit. And you guys ask a lot of questions about it, and you ignore it as much as you can, but it's here. And it's a tough spot to be in. I'm a winless quarterback in this league.
Duke Johnson one-on-one with Joe Hayden at the bottom of the screen. Not a great matchup for the Browns. Corey Coleman in the backfield. Kizer under pressure. Somehow escapes. Kizer's pass is incomplete.
Never won. Had a little bit of success in preseason, but it's going to be tough to swallow it, but you can trust that this is probably my most important year of my life.
What you just got done watching was DeShone Kizer's press conference after the Browns finished with an 0-16 record as a rookie quarterback. Kizer, who was once a promising quarterback and projected to be a franchise quarterback for the Browns, he struggled in 2017 due to the fact he had lack of coaching and a lack of offensive weapons around him. This was after a year of going 0-16 and being a winless quarterback in the NFL. You can see in how he is speaking, his confidence is completely shot. There's no other way to put it. Kizer is not the first example of a quarterback who had his career ruined by his confidence being shot, nor will he be the last. I will show you 4 examples of quarterbacks who had a promising NFL career ruined by their organizations. Our first story begins back in 2001 at Fresno State. Fresno State's senior quarterback David Carr would have a career season there. He would go 11-3 as a starting quarterback, throwing for 4,300 yards, scoring 42 touchdowns and 7 picks. That year, he would have several great wins, including an upset over Oregon State.
In the second half, Carr, the pump fake, going deep, man, touchdown!
After his senior year, Carr was projected to be the first overall pick in the 2002 NFL Draft. Going into the 2002 draft, after having his historic season at Fresno State, he was projected to be selected by the Houston Texans with the first overall pick.
First choice in the 2002 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select David Carr, quarterback from Fresno State.
After being drafted by the Texans with the first pick, everyone thought Carr's future as the franchise quarterback of Houston was secured. In Week 1, he would even lead them to a victory over the Dallas Cowboys 19-10. The victory was a surprising upset as the Cowboys were favored massively in this game. Carr would throw for 145 yards, scoring up 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, and this was one of his better performances of his NFL career. Despite the positive start to the 2002 season, by the end of the season, David Carr's future and his confidence would be changed forever. By the time the entire 2002 season was done with, Carr had broken the NFL record for sacks allowed on a quarterback. Carr that year had struggled. He threw just 9 touchdowns and 15 picks behind a makeshift offensive line, which had struggled the entire season. Throughout the rest of David Carr's career in Houston, he never really found much consistency. He would hold the NFL completion percentage record for one season, but despite that initial 2002 season completely wrecked his confidence. Being sacked multiple times behind a terrible offensive line, it never really changed for Carr. Despite being given wide receiver Andre Johnson to work with, Carr would be out of Houston after the 2007 season began. Now to explain about how this team wrecked David Carr's confidence, we have to look at the previously mentioned offensive line. Earlier on, during the expansion draft in 2002, the Texans had selected Tony Boselli. Boselli was a multi-time All-Pro with the Jacksonville Jaguars, ironically enough a rival of the Texans. However, Boselli would suffer a career-ending injury, and he would never play the NFL again. The key to any quarterback's success, especially a rookie quarterback, is a good offensive line. If you do not provide them with a good offensive line, that rookie quarterback is going to struggle. Despite the negativity around David Carr's career due to his lack of an offensive line and confidence, he actually lasted a lot longer as the starting quarterback of his franchise when you compare him to both Joey Harrington and Patrick Ramsey, who flamed out years after being drafted. Carr actually would last until the 2012 season in the NFL before his eventual retirement. The one thing that I noticed about David Carr's career, he seemed like a sacrificial lamb to the Texans organization. By sacrificial lamb, I mean in terms of his career pretty much being sabotaged. The lack of an offensive line, with most of his offensive lines ranking in the bottom 5 in the NFL throughout his starting career. The one exception was in 2004 was when he had Andre Johnson and a somewhat competent offensive line and a decent run game. That was the year they would go 7-9 and was one of the best starts he'd had. Another thing for the Texans is that after he left, they would acquire quarterback Matt Schaub, and they would provide Schaub with a decent offensive line. And a little over 5 years after Carr left the organization, the Texans would qualify for the playoffs for the first time in team history, and they would win their first ever playoff game in 2011.
4th and 5, the national championship on the line right here. He's going for the corner. He's got it. Vince Young scores.
2006, Vince Young was on top of the football world. He had just led Texas to their first national championship in over 30 years, and he had won the game's MVP. With Young combining for 467 total yards through both the air and on the ground, Vince Young would declare himself for the 2006 NFL Draft while becoming a first-round pick. Young was also a finalist for the Heisman Award in the 2005 season. That year, Vince would throw for 3,000 yards to go along with 26 touchdowns and 10 picks. He would also rush for 1,000 yards with an additional 10 touchdowns on the ground. At the start of the 2006 NFL Draft, Vince Young wouldn't have to wait that long to hear his name called.
With the third choice in the 2006 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Vince Young, quarterback, University of Texas.
Vince Young would see a lot of action during his rookie season. After starting off on the bench behind veteran quarterback Kerry Collins, Vince Young would lead the Titans from an 0-5 start to finish the year in 8-8. He would win NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year while having decent stats for a quarterback, while also showing flashes of potentially being the franchise quarterback, along with making his first career Pro Bowl. Throughout his rookie year, Vince Young would become known for his late-game heroics. Against the Houston Texans, he would have a walk-off touchdown in overtime. Against the New York Giants, he would lead a miracle comeback after being down by 24 points. And against the Indianapolis Colts, he would lead a game-winning drive field goal. After the 2006 season came to an end, everyone thought the sky was the limit for Vince Young's career in the NFL. However, one person on the Titans coaching staff would have something to say about that. Veteran Titans head coach Jeff Fisher never really liked Vince Young going into the 2006 draft. Instead, he preferred USC quarterback Matt Leinart, the quarterback who Vince Young would beat in the 2006 national championship game. After an uneventful rookie year between both Vince Young and Jeff Fisher, the two would get into their first ever disagreement, this being before the 2007 preseason when Vince Young was suddenly benched for violating a team rule. That season, after a promising rookie campaign, Vince Young would suffer massive career regression. This was due to the fact he had suffered multiple injuries, and Young would finish the year throwing for 9 touchdowns and 7 picks with a 63% completion rate. Despite Vince Young's abysmal passing stats as a quarterback, the Titans would qualify for the playoffs with a 10-6 record. This would be their first playoff appearance since the 2003 season, and VY would do alright in his first playoff game. However, the Titans would fall short to the San Diego Chargers 17-6. Vince Young would finish his NFL playoff debut with 55% completion percentage to go along with 136 passing yards and 1 pick through the air. The following year, after Vince Young suffered an injury in Week 1 of the 2008 season, Vince Young would be benched in exchange for quarterback Kerry Collins. Despite Vince Young making the playoffs in the 2007 season, Jeff Fisher still decided to have a quarterback battle between Kerry Collins and Vince Young for the starting job going into the 2008 season. He would actually cancel a meeting with Vince Young during that same offseason to go fishing with Kerry Collins. After spending most of the 2008 season as the backup quarterback behind Kerry Collins and watching as his team would lose in the divisional round to the Baltimore Ravens, Vince Young would get a second chance at the starting job. In the middle of the 2009 season, after the team started out 0-6, Vince Young would be handed the keys to the offense again. In spite of the 0-6 start by Kerry Collins, Vince Young was still not given much confidence by Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher refused to name either Vince Young or Kerry Collins the starting quarterback. During conferences with the media throughout the 2009 season, Jeff Fisher made it known that it wasn't Kerry Collins' fault for the 0-6 start. During these conferences, Jeff Fisher would say that Vince Young was the future of the franchise, though he said that he had a better chance of winning with Kerry Collins than he did with Vince Young. After becoming the starter once more for the Titans, Vince Young would make his second career Pro Bowl. He would finish while passing for over 2,000 yards goal of 10 touchdowns and 3 picks. He would include a 99-yard game-winning drive against the Arizona Cardinals and USC starter Matt Leinart. Despite all of the optimism going into the 2010 season for Titans fans, all of it would fall apart as quickly as their hope rose. In 2010, after a 4-4 start, Vince Young would suffer an injury against Washington and he would miss part of the game. Backup quarterback Rusty Smith would be inserted into the game, and despite wanting to come back into the game, Jeff Fisher would refuse to put Vince Young back into the game. Jeff Fisher and Vince Young would get into one final argument. This would lead to Vince Young storming out of the locker room with him saying he wasn't walking out on his teammates, rather he was walking out on Fisher. In the 2011 offseason, the Titans would release Vince Young from the organization, and he would sign with the Philadelphia Eagles on a one-year contract to be the backup quarterback for the team. He would infamously call the 2011 squad a dream team, and Vince Young would actually start 3 games. He would go 1-2 as a starter while throwing 4 touchdowns, 9 picks, and this would be his last ever regular season action in the NFL. After spending some offseasons with the Buffalo Bills and Green Bay Packers, Vince Young would be released from the NFL, and he would announce his retirement in 2017. After the 2010 season came to an end, Jeff Fisher and the Titans would part ways with one another. He would later sign a contract with the St. Louis Rams where he would have decent success. He would also become known as a coach killer after he almost ruined the career of future first overall pick Jared Goff. Since the 2010 season came to an end, Vince Young and Jeff Fisher have never been able to reconcile their relationship. The two have not spoken since then, and despite attempts by Vince Young, Jeff Fisher would never really respond. The third QB in this video who had their confidence and career ruined by their franchise has to be Oklahoma quarterback Sam Bradford. Coming into the 2010 draft, Sam Bradford was 1 year removed from winning the 2008 Heisman Trophy Award. At Oklahoma, he had become one of the best quarterbacks in college at the time. He would win the Heisman Trophy Award in 2008, however in 2009 he had missed multiple games due to an injury. Despite the injury, however, Bradford would declare for the 2010 NFL Draft with the projection of being the first overall pick, and Bradford wouldn't have to wait that long to hear his name called.
With the first pick in the 2010 NFL Draft, the St. Louis Rams select Sam Bradford, quarterback, Oklahoma.
The Rams would select Sam Bradford with the first overall pick in the 2010 draft. Bradford would actually have a promising rookie season as he combined for over 3,000 yards passing to go along with 19 touchdowns to 14 picks. He would take home NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year for 2010, and the Rams would finish with their most wins since the 2004 season. Despite narrowly missing out on the playoffs to the Seattle Seahawks, who also finished at 7-9, Bradford still had a decent campaign. His 2 top wide receivers were Brandon Gibson and Danny Amendola. Both of the top receivers that year would finish with less than 700 receiving yards for the year. The following season, Bradford would suffer a season regression, throwing for just 6 touchdowns, 6 picks. This was due to the fact that in the middle of the 2011 season, he had suffered a high ankle sprain, which limited his mobility and his ability to play well. The Rams going into the 2012 draft held the second overall pick. There were some rumors that they were going to take Baylor quarterback RG3 and would move on from Sam Bradford. However, those rumors never materialized, as they would instead trade the second overall pick to Washington in exchange for draft assets. The 2012 season for the Rams was decent. They would bounce back from the 2-14 finish in 2011. Bradford would finish the season throwing for 21 touchdowns and 13 picks while completing 59% of his passes. However, the Rams would once again miss the playoffs, and during this time, a troubling issue would occur. Sam Bradford was being top 10 in sacks in the NFL for 3 straight seasons now. He would finish 5th, 6th, and now 8th in terms of sacks by a quarterback. In 2013, the Rams' fears would come to a breaking point. After Bradford started the year throwing for 14 touchdowns to 4 picks in 7 games, Bradford would tear his ACL in the middle of the season. He would not recover in time for the 2014 season as he would re-tear the ACL. Besides what happened to Vince Young, as I talked about earlier in this video, you also have Jeff Fisher, who is known for ruining Sam Bradford's career. The lack of getting him a solid offensive line, along with the lack of offensive weapons, contributed to Bradford's confidence declining, and when you're throwing to Tavon Austin and other receivers who are meant to be wide receiver 2s but not 1s, you're going to struggle. The next offseason, the Philadelphia Eagles would acquire Sam Bradford in a trade which sent Nick Foles to the Rams. After spending 1 season in Philly, Bradford would end up with the Minnesota Vikings. He would spend 2 years there, with him breaking the NFL completion percentage record in 2016. However, in 2017, he would suffer a knee injury and would miss most of the year. The Vikings that year would go 13-3 and lose the NFC Championship game. After a 1-year stint with the Arizona Cardinals, in which he would be released in the middle of the year, Bradford would never play in the NFL again, and he would retire after the 2019 season. Similar to what happened with David Carr, in which Carr had no offensive weapons or an offensive line, Sam Bradford suffered a similar fate, being sacked one of the most times by any quarterbacks in his 4-year career with the Rams. It also didn't help Bradford that his head coach was Jeff Fisher, who is known as a quarterback killer. I believe if Sam Bradford had a decent offensive line and a few decent weapons, he could have been a much better quarterback than he was with the Rams. If you look at his time with the Vikings during the 2016 season, he threw 20 touchdowns to 5 picks. He also broke the NFL completion percentage record. His 2 top receivers were Pro Bowlers Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Now we'll circle back to the beginning of our video, in which I had mentioned quarterback DeShone Kizer. We have to start back in college for Kizer's career. He was coming off a season at Notre Dame in which the team had finished at 4-8. Kizer had shown flashes of potentially being a solid quarterback at the NFL level. Kizer that year had thrown for 26 touchdowns to 9 picks, while completing 58% of his passes. He would throw for a hair under 3,000 yards as well that year. To the shock of everybody, despite many analysts telling Kizer to stay an extra year at Notre Dame, he would declare for the 2017 NFL Draft. At the NFL Combine, Kizer would draw comparison to Titans great Steve McNair, a guy who had won the MVP and was a multi-time Pro Bowler. Controversially, Brian Kelly would tell DeShone Kizer he should have stayed another year at Notre Dame. This was due to the fact he said that Kizer was not ready for the NFL level.
With the 52nd pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select DeShone Kizer, quarterback, Notre Dame.
After being drafted to the Browns in the second round, there was immediately a quarterback battle for the starting job coming that September. The quarterback battle would be a 4-way battle between quarterback Kevin Hogan, Brock Osweiler, Cody Kessler, and Kizer himself. By the end of the preseason, it came down to just DeShone Kizer and Brock Osweiler for the starting job. The job was expected to go to Osweiler, who had playoff experience with both the Broncos and the Texans. He had previously won a playoff game the past year over the Oakland Raiders, and he was expected to be the starter until he either struggled or Kizer was ready to start in 2017. However, things would change almost immediately on August 23rd of that year. The Browns would announce DeShone Kizer as the starting quarterback going into 2017, and in early September, they would release Osweiler before the first week of the season began. This was one of the first mistakes the Browns made going into the 2017 season. When you have a rookie quarterback on your roster, it is highly recommended that you have a veteran quarterback around to help mentor the rookie quarterback. Over the years, you have seen several future Hall of Famers and several star quarterbacks mentored by veteran QBs. You also have to realize the Browns are coming off a 1-15 campaign the year prior. They had started 4 starting quarterbacks in 2016, and they had narrowly missed out on 0-16. Going into 2017, Hugh Jackson was also on the hot seat. After a 1-15 campaign, it was expected that if the Browns struggled once again, he would be fired. Now, in order to explain my final point as to why DeShone Kizer had his confidence ruined by the Browns, we have to flash forward a few months.
Peyton to him. Kizer with all kinds of time and underthrew the ball.
Kizer, good protection over the middle, intercepted. First down, it's intercepted.
Well, we got beat pretty soundly in every phase, and that's obvious. But like I told our team, that's the first quarter of the season. That's not how we want to play or how we're going to continue to play. We understand we got some work to do.
World champion with New England. Kizer on a bootleg pass, and that pass is picked out of it.
First and goal after the penalty from the 5. Kizer little fade pass back in the end zone.
And when Kizer has missed today, he has missed high, and that's exactly what happened.
We've been in that situation a couple times this year. I think that it's a good chance that the game that we will win, the multiple games that we will win throughout the rest of the season, are going to be in the fourth quarter.
For the Browns, Corey Coleman in the backfield. Kizer under pressure, somehow escapes. Kizer's pass is incomplete. Right through the hands of Coleman.
After showing you the clips that I just showed you, you will now understand how we got to this point at the press conference. With Kizer being an extremely raw quarterback coming into 2017, rushing him into the starting job was the worst possible thing any franchise could have done. Kizer would finish the 2017 season throwing for 11 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. The 22 interceptions led the entire NFL in interceptions thrown by a quarterback. The next year, the Browns would cut bait with DeShone Kizer, trading him for a 4th-round pick to the Green Bay Packers. He would see sparing action in Green Bay for a year before spending 2 years in Oakland and a year with the Titans. He would retire after the 2021 season. Another thing which ruined DeShone Kizer's confidence had to be his lack of offensive weapons. His leading wide receiver was running back Duke Johnson, who had a hair under 700 receiving yards. Johnson was a solid utility back for the Browns. However, he wasn't meant to be a wide receiver 1. He also had Corey Coleman, a 1st-round pick from 2016, and the suspended Josh Gordon, who came back late in the year. These 4 quarterbacks are just a few of the major examples who had their careers ruined by franchise negligence. As this video comes to a close, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I saw you guys enjoyed the previous video, so I'm going to try and stick with the draft class videos along with quarterback-focused videos. While I know there will be more coming out soon, I just want to give you the heads up. They will be coming out within the next few weeks. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all stay cool.